Thank you, and thank you to the board for their faith in administration. Thank you, Mr. Isola and Mrs. Callender and Mr. Preston. It's a lot of work to put it together. We do welcome all the input, and it does make a good product. And what you saw this evening is the testament to all the work that we do when it comes out in the form of the children. So this is the public hearing, and I think this echoes Mr. O'Brien's comments. This budget represents the educational goals through a financial perspective, and it is a needs-based budget. We make sure that we present what we need, and we have the long-term planning, and we have the long-term faith both ways with the board and administration to know that when we present that needs-based budget, they're there to support us. The money leads to the success of the students, as you saw this evening. The committee process, I'll give a brief overview. First, we identified our priorities. Then we dealt with I'll deal this evening with the accomplishments of those priorities in this budget, and then touch on the challenges as we went through the process to put the budget together. On the priorities, obviously, support the improvement and the support of the student achievement, and provide long-term fiscal stability. We try to be in a 3 to 5 year planning cycle, but we'd like to have the stability go even beyond that as the cycle continues to rotate. Have a stable tax base and a stable impact, or stabilize the impact on taxes, as well as the maintenance of our infrastructure. With the number of buildings we have and the number of square feet under roof, it's important that we make sure that asset remains taken care of for the years to come. The accomplishments in this budget, we do maintain all our programs going forward. Full implementation of the new curricula that the Education Committee and Mr. Preston worked on. We accommodate all the state mandates. Although we can complain about them, we have to do it, and we have to make sure that we can take care of them. Ms. Engel and the one-to-one program that we're enjoying, we have to continue to support that, and it's quite a venture. We support the Achieve NJ. That is making strides in administrative support, and we're required to do that administrative report, but it is also a process of improving. We support student achievement initiatives. We're streamlining PD. We're trying to make sure that our staff gets all the PD in the best and most streamlined environment, and that gives them the enhanced preparation to succeed in the classroom with the students. We continue our administrative efficiencies. One way that I've been very proud to say that we're able to continue to keep the tax rate as low as we have, every non-instructional and non-educational facet of the department, mostly under mine, unfortunately, is streamlined, and we look for efficiencies. Challenges that we faced, Mr. O'Brien touched on it, mandated testing, and Mr. Isola did mention what a labor load it is. The Achieve NJ, even though it is reaping benefits, it is taking away time from the teachers and the principals. Deferred capital, again, is every time we don't fix something in the buildings or we find a way to put off the repair of something in the buildings, we have to make sure that our infrastructure will remain for years to come. And of course, the safety and security of the students and the staff is of utmost importance, and Mr. Moretti and the Safety Committee are dealing with that on a continuous basis, and we continue to look at security initiatives. The next thing coming in curricula is the Next Gen Science Standards. Mr. Preston and his team have already started implementing it, and it's in this budget, but it's going to continue to be in several budgets to come. And then, of course, the unfunded mandates, maybe we'll discuss that with Senator Rival when he comes to our retreat. We won't sandbag him, but we'll definitely ask. And one thing that we're very proud of, our in all this, with all the administrators and all the fine work that they do, our administrative cost per pupil is $1.3 million under the threshold set by the state. So the state says what our administrative cost per pupil can be. You see we're below it. We are every year. And that's about $1.3 million below that mandate. The multi-year planning, I think we've touched on. We try to be long-term. We try not to be year to year. I'm not going to read it. We've already, Mr. O'Brien has said some of that already. As an example, and he pointed it out, the maintenance reserve, this year we're going to be putting roofs on 2 of the buildings, and we're going to be repaving 2 parking lots with no impact to the current year tax levy. It was through the reserves and through the long-term planning that we've utilized over the past 6 to 7 years. Maintaining stability, we continue to monitor our debt. We look at our debt picture all the time, and in a few slides forward, you're going to see that our debt picture continues to go down, and that's because we take advantage of interest rate and other opportunities to refinance debt when available. We increase energy conservation this summer. We're fortunate enough we'll have an intern working on our ESIP program, so we should see leaps and bounds in our energy conservation, benefiting the budget as well as benefiting on the carbon footprint. Expand shared services. We are always looking to continue to enrich. We have a great shared service list with the township. We have a number of shared services we enjoy with Farmingdale, but we're always looking to expand those shared services to other entities. Maximize our revenue sources. We do get quite a bit of tuition from other LEAs that send us their children because they respect and trust our special ed program, as well as facility fees and other revenue sources that we have. And continue to streamline of operational functions. We're always looking for those as they say in Lean or Six Sigma, you find the ways to cut it out, and what you have left is efficiency. And we're always looking at those things where possible. The proposed budget that we're putting forward this evening has the general fund budget is $111 million. We always have those state and federal programs that are basically pass-throughs for those special needs. And our debt service, which is like our mortgage payment. And again, Mr. O'Brien touched on it. I don't need to beat the dead horse too much, but the budget is a policy-driven core budget that's based on the needs of the district. You can see that the three major categories: operational, the benefits, and then the salaries, which is the people that deliver this fine education. Within the core budget, if we look at the benefits, you see that the majority of them, as in any institution, is going to be the health portion, the large blue. The prescription is the next biggest, the green. Payroll and other deductions, pension contributions, and then dental. In the operational budget, you see that we have our facilities maintenance. The big red section is the transportation, and then the instructional costs other than salaries are in the green. Within that green section, you see that all those things I mentioned before are taken care of. Full implementation of the primary literacy programs, both the Reader's Workshop expansion and the foundations. We're enhancing our 3 to 5 grade math. And of course, as I mentioned before, the next gen science standards. And also included in there are the other items I mentioned. The keys to the success so that we can put a budget on the table like this, again, our operational efficiencies, our shared service, a very aggressive purchasing model where the board supported a move to central purchasing a couple years ago, and it is paying dividends. In the health benefit, we're doing a very aggressive claims auditing, streamlining again, and then just doing more with less, just expecting everything to come together. To fund all that, obviously, we have to identify the sources of revenue. The first one is state aid. You see that this year we'll be receiving $33 million from the state aid. Just slightly above flat. If you see that last year we were $33,353,000. This year we're up $59,000, mostly due to a one-time categorical aid entitled Professional Learning Community Aid that was added at the last minute, so essentially flat state aid. However, that hasn't always been the case. If you look, and Mr. O'Brien alluded to the 2009 financial situation, you can see from this chart that in 2009-10, we received $36 million in state aid. That was funding a very large percentage of the district budget, and in the following year, you can see there was a precipitous drop, $6 million cut in state aid, and that happened to coincide with the beginning of the new law for tax levy growth that has as one of its components the 2% as well as the benefit and other waivers. Moving forward, the next source of revenue is miscellaneous. Again, that includes the tuition from other LEAs and facility and other miscellaneous revenues. State, local, and federal grants. This is the pass-through, essentially. Not all of it's pass-through, but the majority of it is the title funds and those kind of programs. And, of course, the biggest piece of that is the local tax levy. Mr. O'Brien pointed some of this out. If you look at the average levy over the last 7 years, including debt service, we have grown at just 1.09%. In this environment, that is even that is below the rate of inflation. Although some years went up and down differently, as Mr. O'Brien pointed out, the average of the average is 1.09. Without the debt service, because we were very aggressive in reducing our debt. You see, it went from 6.7 down to 5.4. I'm sorry, 6.7 million down to 5.4 million. Without the debt levy, even at that, the local general fund only grew at 1.46. And as Mr. O'Brien pointed out, the total budget grew at slightly less than that in the 1.4 range. So although there's different reasons each year, the overall, this board and the several boards before them have been very prudent and very efficient in working with administration to keep the average tax levy down at a controllable level. It's interesting to point out what tax levy growth was avoided. The law that was heralded as the 2% law, even though there were other factors in it, was very important and it created some controls. You see that originally we were cut $6.8 million. In that law, we could have raised the local tax levy. The board could have they had taxing authority. They could have gone up by these numbers here. You see, they range from $6.8 million to $131,000. A total non-used authority of over $12 million, as Mr. O'Brien alluded to. The tax levy this evening continues that trend, and that comes out to a total of $12,099,000 of unused tax levy. Taking that evaluation a little further, I thought it would be appropriate. Each year that the board did not use their taxing authority, there was a compounding effort, or a non-compounding effort is a better way to say it, that I wanted to show if the board had gone to cap each of these years. Now, this is a crystal ball kind of thing. It didn't happen, so it has to be rebuilt mathematically. If the board had used, or if the board and administration had used the taxing authority, these would have been the tax levies allowed. Mr. O'Brien pointed out that at this point, the board would have the authority to tax the local taxpayers $83 million compared to the 71 that is included in this budget this evening. The individual levy avoided each year gets up as high as $12 million. But the amount of levy not taken in cumulative exceeds the value of an additional year. It's $76 million of unused tax levy since this law came into effect in 2009-10. So I thought that was important to point out. In a graphical expression of the same thing, you see that the red line is what the legislation would have allowed, topping out at $83,000. And the blue line is what the board and administration actually asked for and received. So you see the delta there is the difference in the taxing authority. This is a recitation of the levy tonight. It is under cap, and the board has shown that prudence every year and has never used that term banked cap. It's never been used. Adding in the debt service, again, that's like the mortgage payment. The proposed tax levy is $76,623. $76 million, excuse me. I wish it was $76,000, right? I apologize. But as you get your tax bill, anybody who has been to this presentation in prior years, you know that the township taxes based on a calendar year, yet we strike our budget based on fiscal year. So the calendar year for the township is January to December, and that overlaps two of our budgets, the 15-16 budget that we're utilizing right now, and the 16-17 budget that we're talking about this evening. So you see that the tax year is actually a component of two of those budgets, bringing in the 15-16, which is last year's. I'm sorry, and the 16-17, which is the proposal this evening. Taking half from 15-16 and half from 16-17 gives us the portion to be raised for 2016 taxes, which your little postcard tax bill will be based on. Of that amount, $75,427,000. What does that mean? This is the representation of the average house in Howell. Last year, the average house was $308,000. That's based on the assessments. So that average house, if you were to have that perfect average $308,000 house, your school taxes would have been $3,694 for the year. Bringing that average house in this year, the new assessed value of that average home in Howell is $318,000. So it's up $10,000. That, because the rate goes down, and again, rate and what you pay are not exactly the same, but the new levy makes the no levy and the new assessments make the rate go down. There would be an increase to $37.65 or $71 a year, slightly less than $6 a month on that average house. The good news is that the house is up to $318,000 because the cause of that is that the overall ratables in Howell Township are up over 3%. So that's very good. We haven't seen a ratable growth like that in several years, and that, in my opinion, not as the presentation tonight, that's a good sign for the economy. So that is the presentation of the budget this evening, Mr. O'Brien. I would entertain questions.
At this point, I think if any board member has any questions specifically on the budget, time to Mr. Senesek know. Any board members? Any questions? So the public doesn't think that we aren't paying attention. The board's already been through this budget at length.
Everyone has seen it at some level, at some committee, absolutely.
Right, and that's the thing. This is a public hearing for the community to get familiar with the budget. But, you know, obviously each board member's had an opportunity to review it and reach out and through committee and also directly to administration whenever they had any opportunity or need. But bottom line is the process is that we're focusing, again, not on each individual budget cycle. Our long-term focus is, again, staying with the core needs. And this budget, as Mr. Isola has pointed out, is what he absolutely needs this year in order to accomplish the mission. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
May we open it, since it is the public hearing, may we open it for questions from the public?
Good idea.